If you're a writer, and if you're here, I assume you're a writer. If you're a writer, I think you should self-publish your work. And if you self-publish your work, I think you should also have an audiobook. Hi, I'm Greg. This is a place to come for tips for writers. I'm a writer. I've created a couple of audiobooks to date, one of which sells more copies of that book than either the ebook or the paperback does. If you're on the fence about whether to create an audiobook or not, this is the video for you. If you're looking for step-by-step instructions to create your audiobook, this video isn't for you. That detail will be in the online course about self-publishing your audiobook. This video will just be a short introduction to creating your audiobook on Audible to help you decide whether or not it's a project you want to take on. That said, I'll say it again. If you're a writer, you should self-publish and you should have an audiobook. Yeah, now for the fine print. If you have a publication deal with a publisher, sure, don't self-publish. And if you have a book that doesn't really lend itself to audio, like maybe a cookbook, then sure, skip the audiobook. But for everyone else, I stand by these statements. A couple of details here. I'm only going to talk about Audible in this video because that's been my experience. There are other avenues for publishing audiobooks, though. Audible is an Amazon subsidiary that controls, by some estimates, between 60% and 90% of the audiobook market. I'm sure there are plenty of reasons not to publish with Audible, but from a pure share of market perspective, it's hard to argue with those numbers. Add to those numbers that Audible, like other self-publishing channels with Amazon, is free. Although, like most things, free only gets you so far, so what I'll be covering is how I published my own audiobook and where I did spend a little bit of money to get that done. What I won't be talking about here is marketing and promotion, because I cover that in great detail in the How to Publish Your Book on Amazon KDP online course, and we'll cover it in even greater detail in the upcoming How to Promote Your Self-Published Book online course. But let's just talk about audiobooks for right now. First, the path to publishing your audiobook on Audible will go through a website called the Audiobook Creation Exchange, or acx.com. I have found the ACX website really easy to navigate, which is always nice. First thing you're going to do is confirm that you own the rights to your book. If you have self-published through KDP, you have the rights. If you don't have the rights or can't easily prove that you do, you're not going to be able to publish through ACX until you get that resolved. Next thing, you start your ACX account and claim your title. In order to self-publish through ACX, your book has to be listed for sale on Amazon. But the good news is that by claiming your title, ACX will pull your book metadata, rankings, and reviews into Audible when you publish the audiobook. Next, decide whether you'll do your own narration or if you want someone else to be the narrator, also called the producer on ACX. If you want to find a producer, what you'll do is post your book for auditions on ACX. You'll decide what your payment method is going to be for the producer. That will be either a price per finished hour or royalty share or a combination. Price per finished hour includes whatever editing and multiple takes the producer has to do, as well as any audio treatment like sound effects that you agree upon. Price per finished hour rates can range from $50 per finished hour up to $1,000 per finished hour. Predictably, the higher price will be a higher quality recording, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily the right recording for your project. My advice, listen to a lot of samples before you post your audition. What you'll do then is put together an audition script that producers will use to record a 15-minute section of your book, and you'll review those audition recordings to decide who you want. ACX will facilitate the connection between you and the producer, but both ACX and I recommend having a live conversation, including email, before or during the negotiation phase, just to be sure you're on the same page. Once you've gotten to this point, your producer becomes responsible for providing ACX with the right quality audio files for your book. Chances are they've done this before, and that's going to be an easy process for them. You will review the final audio, provide corrections and feedback to the producer, and then approve the files and pay your producer. After that, it will take about 10 days for your book to go live on Audible. Now, with a little bit of preparation and equipment, you can also record your own audio, which is what I did. ACX has great instructional videos to help you get your audio set up right. You'll need a microphone and your computer microphone may not be high enough quality, so you might want an external microphone. I use a Blue Yeti microphone, which is here, for all of my voice work, and this is also what I use to record all of my audiobooks. The Yeti is about $100. Blue also makes a mic called a Snowball that's about half that. You can often find either microphone used as well. You'll also need some software to do a little bit of cleanup and packaging of the final audio file. I used GarageBand, which is included software on most Apple computers and tablets, for one of my projects, and used Audacity for several others. Audacity is a free open source audio editing software that has a really easy learning curve. It's very popular software. But that said, you are going to have to learn a little bit about audio editing in order to get your files ready to upload. Finally, you'll need a recording space that is as noise-free as possible. I literally draped blankets around my small home office in order to reduce reflective noise, and that worked beautifully. Once I got a good audio setup, I recorded a sample file, and I used ACX's Audio Lab to upload my file and test the quality. It did take me a few iterations to reduce the noise enough for the final file, but I think I only uploaded 3 files that failed to meet the criteria before I got a setup that worked just fine. From there, it's just about doing the narration. Again, ACX has great video tutorials on how to get the best narration possible, everything from, as I described, how to set up your space to like how to have your posture and how to present into the microphone itself. So great resources there. So then you record your book, you upload your audio files, and again, it'll take about 10 days for them to go through ACX's quality check. But then your audiobook is available on both Audible and Amazon. So now, if you have a Kindle ebook and a paperback, as I do, customers, when they get to your detail page on Amazon, will also be offered the audiobook. And that book will also be available on Audible itself. And as I said, my audiobook sales have exceeded the paperback and ebook sales for about 4 years now. This has a bit to do with my marketing plan, but as I said, that's for another video. My key point is that the audiobook has definitely been worth it for me. A note here about royalties. Right now, Audible pays 40% royalties if you are exclusive to Audible, and 25% if you are not exclusive to Audible. There are many folks who believe this is too low, especially given that Amazon pays up to 70% for exclusive ebook royalties. I recommend that you do an internet search for Brandon Sanderson and Audible to learn about an important development in this royalty payment process. Brandon Sanderson is one of the most popular fantasy writers in the world right now. He's published more than 70 novels, and his book, Oathbringer, was, at the time, the most pre-ordered book of all time on Audible. All that serves to describe why it was a big deal when Sanderson, to protest the low royalty percentage, actually pulled some of his projects away from Audible, notably the aforementioned book, Oathbringer. Because of his popularity, he could have undoubtedly negotiated a higher royalty for himself, but he instead chose to use his market dominance to pressure Amazon and Audible to increase royalties for all authors by withholding publication of some of his recent pandemic-written projects from the Audible platform and going with Spotify instead. As recently as March of 2024, Sanderson announced in his blog, with Amazon's permission, that higher rates were coming to all authors. So that's all great news and worth following if you're going to create an audiobook. All right, that's your high-level check-in on audiobooks. Not everyone listens to audiobooks, but a lot of people love them. I am one of those people. And given the relative ease of getting an audiobook published on Audible, it can be a great experience and one that I recommend for almost anyone. Good luck. Happy audiobooking.